Thursday evening, the tired time of the day when everyone is tired and just wants to go to sleep, and that's what I really wanted to do. But I thought I should get a video out, and I wondered what I should do. And then I realised that no one's ever really made top 10 videos before, and you know, it's a nice format to do. And the best way to do it is my personal top 10 historical games of all time. Now, like I said, this is a very personal thing. These are my favourite games that I have personally played. It's my opinion, so before you dislike, say why is this on it? Because we're not the same person. Maybe make your own top 10 video, or even just in the comments of this, put your top 10 favourite historical games. Now, when I say historical games, I'm using games that are based in some sort of history. Maybe it's fantasy history. There is some it's stretching a bit when it comes to like Lord of the Rings. There's one Lord of the Rings game, but I class it to myself as historical, and plus I wanted to put it in this because it's a fucking incredible game. So without further ado, let's get straight into the video. First off, at the number 10 slot is War Thunder. Now, this is at the number 10 slot because, I mean, it's War Thunder. But at the same time, it's one of those free-to-play games I've actually had so much fun with. I've not played it for quite some time, but a little bit after when it first came out, there was a time where I used to play it tons with my mates. We used to go online, we used to play with each other, we used to upgrade and level up together. We'd also go into custom games together and be able to have some fun races and shooting each other down and making everyone angry, but at the end of the day it'd be so much fun. I've got almost 100 hours in this, which in terms of PC gaming is not massive, but then you've got to remember this is a free-to-play game, which isn't really my cup of tea most of the time. I don't have time to play games when I'm not recording most of the time, so if I get above 30 hours in a game, that's a good game for me, unless I record on it, which I haven't really done in War Thunder. But what made this game so good? Well, we mostly played the arcade battles, because I'm not really a hardcore gamer if you've noticed by watching this channel. I love to go in. I used to do all the British planes, because I am British and I'm very I'm not that patriotic, but the Spitfires and the Hurricanes and the Typhoons were a lot of fun to see how you could upgrade them, the different crew members you could get in, better guns as well. And of course, I was able to put more hours into it, so I inevitably got better planes than all my friends, and I was able to take them all down, which was a lot of fun as well. But War Thunder does have its issues. Yes, microtransactions are a problem with free-to-play games, but I think it's all in all a pretty good game, especially for being free, and you're able to get enjoyment out of it even if you don't want to put money into it. So that's why War Thunder is at my number 10 slot. Now at number 9 is sort of pushing the historical gaming boundary. This is Lord of the Rings Conquest, but wait, there's one reason I wanted to put this in. The fucking bird, shut up! And I wanted to put this in because the place that it had in my childhood. Anyone knows Lord of the Rings Conquest was an Xbox 360 game which was really based around Star Wars Battlefront but set in the Lord of the Rings universe. And anyone that's been a fan of this channel knows that many times have I said how much I love Star Wars Battlefront 2. And Lord of the Rings Conquest is in that same boat. I used to come home with my mates and we used to go over to each other's house, play split screen on this game and have so much fun playing through the different missions you can do. Pelennor Fields, Osgiliath, Helm's Deep, especially Helm's Deep, playing on the different sides, whether it was the orcs or even just going and invading the Shire as orcs, or then be able to get the heroes such as the Ents, or being a troll, or even being Aragorn or Legolas was so much fun. Or even being one of the unique units like the Spy where you could sort of cloak yourself, go up behind a troll and run up its back and stab it. It was so much fun, and while it isn't a historical game, it is based, obviously, and inspired by history, which is why I think it's able to sneak itself into this list. But at the end of the day, this is my list, and it is one of my favourite games ever made, and if I can put it in any list, I'm going to try and put it in any list, because it is an incredible game. Unfortunately, it's one of those games that you can't really play anymore. There's no multiplayer servers, and I don't own an Xbox 360 anymore, and I kind of wish it did come back for maybe PC, because that would be a lot of fun. At the number 8 spot, we have Men of War Assault Squad 2. You might be thinking, why have you chosen this one and not one of the earlier ones in the Men of War series? Well, because this one, I feel, really hit home for me as something that really grasped me in Men of War. I played a lot of the Men of War games. I played Men of War 1, I played Men of War Assault Squad, I played many of the spin-offs as well. I don't actually own them on Steam, but I have played them on disc copies. And they were all great and I had a lot of fun with them, but Men of War Assault Squad 2 is the one that really grasped me in. I don't quite know what about it was. I mean, it looked a lot better than the other Men of War games, and I am a sucker for good, nice looking graphics, but the whole World War II historical setting, the whole strategic, because I used to be such a fan of the Total War games, but Men of War took that, put it in World War II, and made the micromanaging much more important than the macroman, having individual squads and then being able to control individual men within these squads, being able to decide when you bring in vehicles or when maybe the best chance isn't to. And Men of War Assault Squad 2 was the one in the series that I actually still play to this day. I still love to go on it, and it's one that I'm actually good at. I spent time in this, and for me to actually spend time and get good at a game these days with being so busy doing uni work and making videos, I don't have the time to sink into games just casually. But Men of War Assault Squad 2 did that for me, and I was able to do it, and that's why I still love and play it to this day. All the Assassin's Creed games are very loosely based on history, and there's a couple that everyone says are a lot better than the others, and you may think, yes, this is just following a trend, but this genuinely is my favourite Assassin's Creed game, and this is Assassin's Creed 2. But this was also the very first Assassin's Creed game I owned. I remember 6, 7, maybe even 8 years ago now, playing the original Assassin's Creed game on my cousin's Xbox when we went over for Christmas, and I was obsessed with it. But we didn't own that one. Then a few years later, Assassin's Creed 2 came out. I think it was free on Xbox Live if you had Xbox Live Gold when I was on the Xbox 360. So I downloaded it and I played through the whole thing in a couple of sittings. It was so much fun. The story of whole you're in Renaissance Italy working with Leonardo da Vinci, getting all these new inventions, having this sort of glider suit, the new hidden blades and weapons that you could use was so much fun. And while it had its issues, well, Assassin's Creed back in those days, you still had those towns and cities that you could upgrade with gold that really didn't do anything. It was a little bit of a waste of time. Before Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, that was sort of all you did with your money. But because of all its issues is what made this game very nostalgic. Maybe it's not the game I think it is now, and that's probably the same with a lot of these older games. If I went back and played them now, maybe I wouldn't enjoy them as much as I did back then. But like I said, this is my favourite historical games that I've played of all time. And I played this game back in the day, and it stuck with me. And when I went to Italy, when I went to Rome, I could see all the places that I climbed in Assassin's Creed, and it made me want to go back and play Assassin's Creed 2 again. And a game that sort of leaves that dent and sort of leaves that nostalgia really does something quite special. Now, the storyline in the Assassin's Creed games has never been amazing, but this one I think was better than most. It was a bit of a debate and a toss-up between this and Black Flag, since Black Flag was really the one that I think I've spent the most time on and had a lot of fun on, but this is the one that has really stuck in my mind as the first Assassin's Creed game I owned, and the first one that I really played to the extent where I actually enjoyed the Assassin's Creed game series, and it wasn't just that AAA series that everyone else played and me and my little nerdy self never really got my hands onto. Assassin's Creed 2 brought me into that series. In the number 6 spot, we're nearly halfway through, is Civilization 5. Now, I don't think I need to explain Civ 5 to any PC players because you probably all played it. It's one of the most played games on Steam. It is incredibly successful. It has that press another button for another turn mechanic where it just makes you want to play and play and play. I remember the first time I loaded it up, I played the campaign for maybe 6 or 7 hours straight, and those are rookie numbers for me. I mean, for most people, they would be playing for 10, 11, up to 20 hours in a row because it's one of those games. I missed it when it first came out, but I bought it a few years later, and with the Brave New World expansion, playing it with my mates, yeah, sometimes games could go on for ages, but they didn't feel like they went on for ages because it was sort of a project. You sort of go on with your mates and you get some food, and it was like the holidays and you're just off school and you'd load it up and you get some food from the shop that you'd have next year and you'd just be eating, and then someone would go for lunch and then you pause the game, you'll come back to it and you play the whole day through in real life with your mates on Civ 5, and it was one of those games. Civ 6 never really captured the same feeling as Civ 5. I don't think it was a worse game. I think actually Civ 6 expanded on Civ 5 for the better. But once again, it's that feeling that's important for me when it's playing these games. Now, halfway through, my top 10 favourite historical games ever is, of course, Kingdom Come Deliverance. Now, you might have thought this would be higher, but this is a more recent game, and that is quite impressive because you'll see all these games seem to be older games because I used to play games a lot more before. And like I said, with the work on YouTube and everything, I don't have the time to sink myself into a game, and especially not a single player game. With a multiplayer game, I can pop in and out with my mates, but with a single player game like Kingdom Come, you've got to put those hours in to really get and immerse yourself in the story, and this was the first game in years that did that for me, and that is why it is on this list, because it was able to capture me and get me and stay in my seat rather than going off and doing something else, which I'd quite regularly do when I'd sit and play a single player game, because I just felt like unless I was completely immersed in it, I didn't have the time to do it. But Kingdom Come was very special. Set in medieval Europe, you go around as Henry, doing some really immersive quests, having these really cool battles with its own unique combat style. If you haven't played this game, you are missing out. I would say this has now sealed itself in the PC gaming market, or even Xbox and PS4. It sealed itself in the historical market as a must play. And for a game in 2018 to come out then and seal itself straight away as a must play, it did something quite impressive. But as we're going into the final four, it's starting to heat up a bit. Now we have two games with the same franchise here. The first one being Total War Rome 2. Now I did make a whole video on why I think this is an amazing Total War game. It had a rocky release, it was very buggy, and it was pretty hated, to be fair, to start with, and it was justifiably hated. But it has crawled back, it has gained its place, and one of my favourite games ever. Not just historical games, one of my favourite games ever. Total War Rome 2 has such an immersive and unique campaign, and it still holds up to this day of being beautiful and gorgeous to look at. Now, of course, I do have predisposition to the era. I love Rome, I love ancient Rome, I love that era. But Rome 2 captured it so perfectly, with the formations, with controlling your troops, with the campaign, being able to build up your empire, and then even all the moddings that came in. The Blood and Gore DLC was great. It added a whole new area to Total War that we hadn't really seen before. That, I don't know, it seems like such a small thing, and a lot of people were annoyed that you had to play it, but I thought the Blood and Gore DLC was pretty cool. But all in all, Rome 2, the campaign was incredible. Multiplayer isn't the biggest strength of Total War, if I'm going to be completely honest. It tends to die off after a year or so. But the single player is something that I went back to a couple of months ago, and I played for 2 weeks every single day for like 4 or 5 hours a day. It was a little bit insane. I just kind of got immersed, and it grasped me back in, and I just couldn't put it down. And that's why Rome 2 Total War is 4th on the list. Age of Empires, but which one is it? Is it Age of Empires 1, you know, the original? Is it Age of Empires 2? That one. And Age of Empires 3, it's Age of Empires 2. I'm sorry, Age of Empires 2 Age of Kings is the best Age of Empires game. Of course, that is my opinion, but my opinion is correct. I'm joking. But Age of Empires was the first PC game I ever played. I'm pretty sure it was probably the first game I ever played. Me and my brother watching my dad play this on his old computer, and then eventually us getting into it. And then Age of Empires 2, once I tried that out, I absolutely fell in love. And it is a game that I still play to this day, and is one of the most popular games on Steam somehow. Age of Empires 2, a game that came out in, what, 1998? How is this so popular still? Age of Empires 4, we can look off into the future that what might happen, but Age of Empires really has sealed itself as the master of strategy games. It is the best real-time strategy franchise there is, and it has sealed itself there because of what is accomplished. Building these small settlements and then making them up to massive castles, and building wars and building up your troops, and yes, there were formations and things you could use for your troops, but they weren't really used. It was all about getting the right troops at the right time and having the right resources. I love playing this with my mates even to this day, whether it's against each other or playing against the harder and harder AI as the new HD edition added in some quite tough opponents to play against. But Age of Empires 2 is always going to be on my list for my favourite games ever made. Always, always, always. And yes, Age of Empires shitposting, it is better than Age of Empires 3. It is confirmed by the one and only Resonance. Now we're into the final 2 spots, but what could be my final 2 favourite historical games ever made? Of course, we have Rome Total War. I did say there'll be another one in this series, the Total War series, because Total War is an incredible series for historical games. I mean, that's what they're mostly based around, but they've managed to solidify themselves into a massive AAA company from quite a niche market, if I'm going to be completely honest. And yes, I have put Rome 2, and now I put Rome 1, because Rome 1 was the first ever Total War I ever played. One of the first PC games, and the first game I ever owned on Steam. I did not know about Steam until this game, because I had it as a disc copy actually, and then the disc was broken, and my brother was like, oh, you get on Steam. I was like, what is this Steam thing you speak of? So I downloaded Steam and I bought Rome Total War, and that is the first game I ever owned on Steam. The campaign is perfection. There isn't a Total War game that I think has replicated the campaign since Rome 1. Yes, it's very dated in terms of graphics, but at the end of the day, I do like graphics, but when it comes to a game that is so perfected in terms of its game mechanics and how it plays out, and the love and care that's obviously shown by the developers, I don't care about how it looks. Being able to make formations with Rome, I remember first seeing this and I had never seen anything like this before, and maybe it's a lot of nostalgia glasses, but surely that's what makes a game great. If it's able to make nostalgia glasses that strong, surely it did something right in the first place. No matter how well it's aged compared to games of these days, in the day, this was probably the furthest a game had ever been pushed of this type, and that's why it stuck around for a long time. To be fair, I don't even think I need to announce what my number 1 place is, because it's not, you would expect it to be on this list and it's not come up so far, so it's Mountain Blade. It's Mountain Blade Warband specifically. The first one is actually a little bit shit, to be fair, but it had the amazing ideas, the plateau, the platform for an incredible game, and then Warband came out, and my god, I first got into it like I think a lot of people did, with watching Malekith's videos on Napoleonic Wars and seeing these line battles, something that had never been done or seen on YouTube before. 200 people working together. They weren't just fighting each other, they were working in lines and producing these formations and doing these events. And then I played that and I wanted to do that myself, so I got the game Napoleonic Wars, and I didn't really touch Warband for a while. But I came back and I tried Warband, and have I ever been... It's my most played game on Steam. I've got nearly 3,000 hours on it, and once again, hold your comments. I know they're rookie numbers for a lot of people, but I have a life. Oh dear. But the modding support, the community... not really, the community's a bit shit. Persistent World, oh my god, what a mod that was back in its day. It was the pinnacle of modding scenes. How you can make a game like Mountain Blade look like that, play like that, work like that, and the whole whoever came up with the Game of Thrones theme for Persistent World is a genius. I remember that I had no idea what any of these the Targaryens, what's that? Someone told me. I started watching Game of Thrones. Oh my god, I knew every single one of these houses and all these names because I'd played Persistent World for like 3 years with all these names and houses that I had no idea where they were from, and someone said they're from Game of Thrones. So I was like, oh, let's watch this show. And it's just like, it was so surreal. It was such a weird experience. Whoever had the idea to have Game of Thrones houses in Persistent World is a genius. But all in all, I think it's safe to say, having this medieval RPG mixed with a whole strategy element, going around with your party, collecting food, collecting resources, going to war, training up your men, deciding whether it's worth having better men or more men, because you might not be able to pay your army otherwise. Better men obviously are more expensive, but maybe more men might be, depending on where you get them from. Each different faction has their own unique units and types, and you're going to have to do field battles and siege battles differently with different units, because some might not be so good for each of them. My god, it's not just my opinion on this one. I looked up the best games in historical games on Steam, and all the games with the hashtag historical tag on them were all listed, and the most highly rated game with the historical tag on Steam is Mountain Blade. Now I'm going to be doing another series of the top 10 objectively historical games where I go through that list and I play each and every one. And do I think they should be on the list, or do I think they should be chucked off that list? That's the top 10 historical games on Steam, like top 10 rated by players. So that's going to be an interesting series. So if you want to see that, make sure you stick around for that. But I know it's been a longer video. It's just been a bit of a nice calm ranting from me. I had no script for this, just what games I was talking about, and that's it. And I really hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you leave your top 10 down below. But until then, guys, I will see you in the next one.